Hello, welcome to Nightline. I'm Raymond Goh. News making the headlines. Airline companies should seek commercial solutions and not expect any bailouts, says Finance Minister. And Barisan Nasional wins landslide victory in Chini by-election. Good morning. Barisan Nasional (BN) claimed a landslide victory in the Chini state by-election on Saturday with a 12,650 vote majority. Muhammad Sharim Mat Zain, aged 41, garnered 13,872 votes to defeat his two independent contenders, Datuk Tengku Zainul Hisham Tengku Hussein, who polled 1,222 votes, and Muhammad Shukri Muhammad Ramli, who only managed to secure 137 votes.
Misi saya melihat suara hasrat masyarakat di Don Chini menjadi keutamaan saya untuk saya membawa perkara ini untuk diketengahkan. Saya yakin kerana di belakang saya ada Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri Najib dan Yang Berhormat Menteri Besar Pahang dan juga Datuk Seri Presiden Parti. Pastinya saya selaku orang muda pasti akan dapat dibantu dan juga diberi perhatian hal berkaitan masyarakat di Don Chini.
The results of the by-election was announced by Returning Officer Datuk Zaliza Zulkifli at the vote tallying centre at the National Youth Skills Institute at 9:04 p.m. Saturday. Datuk Zaliza said there were only 239 spoiled votes and 36 unreturned or unaccounted ballot papers for the by-election after all 13 polling centres were closed at 5:30 p.m. with voter turnout recorded at 74%. Or 15,231 voters. Muhammad Sharim's winning majority surpassed twofold the majority of 4,622 votes garnered by his predecessor, the late Datuk Sri Abu Bakar Harun of Barisan Nasional, with 4,622 votes during the 14th general election, GE14. Chini State Constituency has 20,990 voters, comprising 10,269 men and 10,721 women. This was the sixth victory for BN out of the 11 by-elections held after the GE14 on May 9, 2018. BN had previously won in by-elections in Cameron Highlands, Semenyih, Rantau, Tanjung Piai and Kimanis. Earlier in the day, voters observed the new normal without any issues in the first ever by-election held during the COVID-19 pandemic. Many of them felt that despite the standard operating procedures, SOPs, in place to curb the spread of the coronavirus, the polling process was smoother and faster compared to the experience they had in previous elections. The voters said it was not a lengthy process as they had expected, and everything was completed in less than 10 minutes. Apart from the usual guidelines and procedures of having their body temperatures screened, applying hand sanitizers and ensuring 1 meter social distancing, a majority of voters also followed the recommended ballot casting times printed on their voter cards, which helped prevent congestion or long queues at all 13 polling stations in the constituency.
Bila kami sampai, dia ambil suhu, so cek suhu, dah cek suhu, kita akan pergi ke saluran yang kita akan mengundi lah. Lepas tu, dekat saluran mengundi tu ada penjarakan lah 1 meter. So kat dalam tu, dia buat seorang by seorang. And then bila kita dah tu, dia celup dakwat. Dah celup dakwat, dia akan pakai kita glove plastik tu. And then baru dapat form untuk kita isilah yang mana kita nak pilih undi. Lepas tu, kita pangkah and then kita boleh keluar lah. So sangat lancar lah.
Proses dia berjalan lancar lah. Yang sudah-sudah lagi letih berdiri lah, ni berduduk lagi bagus lah. Tu je lah.
Semua ada saringan suhu semua.
Okey, semua beres. Tak ada masalah, tak ada. Beres, jalan lancar.
Alhamdulillah tadi senanglah. SOP pun bagus sekali. Sampai tadi terus diorang cek suhu. Lepas tu tempat saluran saya pun tak ramai. Jadi cepatlah benda tu, mudah.
Some of the voters were even excited to be among the first to experience voting under the new normal amid the pandemic, while others urged the Election Commission to maintain some of the protocols which helped to facilitate the voting process for further elections. Despite the challenging situation faced due to the COVID-19 pandemic, no airlines have come forward to seek financial assistance from the government thus far. Finance Minister Dato Sri Tengku Zafrul Aziz said that the companies affected should seek commercial solutions and not expect the government to get involved in any bailout or to provide capital injection. The Finance Minister said the government, however, is prepared to help in other ways so as to ensure that employees are not adversely affected.
I think what is important is for those airlines to seek commercial solutions. Today, when you said bailout, for me, for the government, I don't believe in bailing out shareholders. We may look at helping and assisting companies so that they continue to remain afloat. Employment continues to be there for Malaysians. But to bail out companies is something that I think is wrong.
He said that Nasional, as the sole shareholder of Malaysia Airlines and AirAsia as a public listed company, must seek a commercial approach and own means to survive without depending on the government. Dato Sri Tengku Zafrul said this when being interviewed on TV3's business and economic talk show Money Matters, which made its debut on Saturday. The Finance Minister was also asked about the possibility of a merger between the two airlines to form a national carrier, which has been the talk of the town amidst the COVID-19 pandemic.
The talk has gone again to the possible mergers of the airlines. Are you in favor of something like this?
To me, mergers of airlines, mergers of banks, or mergers of any entities should be commercially driven. So I don't think any interference from a government should be there. So if the banks or airlines or oil and gas industries, any industries for that matter, it should be done based on commercial consideration.
Meanwhile, commenting on the tabling of the 2021 budget slated for November, Dato Sri Tengku Zafrul said the main focus would be on revitalizing the country's economy by raising the confidence of the people and investors.
2021 will be the year where we want to sustain the growth that we hope to achieve in the fourth quarter and the third quarter of this year. That's why if you look at the forecast by the World Bank, IMF, the rating agencies, by analysts, is that Malaysia will post a stronger growth in 2021. So the budget must be there to accommodate that and facilitate that growth.
Mm-hmm. Now, looking at what you've mentioned...
The Finance Minister added that the 2021 budget will also look to drive new sources of growth and future-proofing Malaysia. On the implementation of mega projects such as the East Coast Rail Project, ECRL, and MRT2, he said both projects will carry on as planned. This, as the development of such high-impact projects is expected to contribute at least 1% growth to the country's economy.
I'm expecting a V-shaped recovery. We have seen how the economy has reopened on 4th of May when we announced the CMCO. And we have seen many Malaysians are back at work. Companies have started to reopen. And of course, it took time, right? We've seen how through the data that we have analyzed, a number of people start to work, a number of people going onto public transport, and you've seen that the economy is slowly improving. When we announced that we will help the micro SMEs, we announced Grant Khas Prihatin, which is a grant given to SMEs, to micro SMEs, 3,000 ringgit each. We're targeting all the micro SMEs. There's around 600,000 micro SMEs in Malaysia. And the measurement and the KPI is not just to see whether the money amount is disbursed, but what have they done with it? Did they survive? How well? If they don't, why? The best possible scenario for us after end of September is for banks to engage those customers who require their help, and they should try and give as much assistance as possible to them. But the main one is to really restore investor and consumer confidence to drive the economy in 2021. Because 2021 will be the year where we want to sustain the growth that we hope to achieve in the fourth quarter and the third quarter of this year. That's why, if you look at the forecast by the World Bank, IMF, the rating agencies, by analysts, is that Malaysia will post a stronger growth in 2021. So the budget must be there to accommodate that and facilitate that growth. Mm-hmm.
7 returning Malaysians have been sent to the hospital after testing positive for COVID-19. Senior Minister for Security, Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, said the 7 were among the 1,171 Malaysians who landed in KLIA and KLIA-2 on Friday from Indonesia, Singapore, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, China, Pakistan, Brunei, Hong Kong, Vietnam, Saudi Arabia, and the Philippines, while those who tested negative are under mandatory home quarantine at their respective homes. Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri added that between June 10th and July 3rd, almost 10,280 people were screened for COVID-19 at KLIA. Of that number, 47 people tested positive and were sent for treatment. The senior minister also said the Royal Malaysia Police had monitored the level of compliance of 944 cases pertaining to the standard operating procedures, SOPs, for home quarantine, and all of them were found in full compliance. The Pudu cluster, which emerged following a COVID-19 screening at a construction site, has been given the clean bill of health after no new cases were recorded for the past 28 days. Health Director General Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah said this means a total of 54 clusters in the country have ended to date. 3,387 people were screened for the Pudu cluster up to Friday, and 80 cases were confirmed positive for COVID-19. 97.5% of the cluster's positive cases are non-Malaysian citizens. Of the total, 69 were Bangladeshis, 7 Myanmar nationals, 2 Indonesians, and 2 locals. Dr. Noor Hisham also announced that there are currently only 76 people still receiving treatment for COVID-19 in hospitals nationwide. 10 new cases were reported on Saturday, with 7 of them being imported cases involving Malaysians who had caught the virus overseas. The remaining 3 cases were local transmissions involving 1 foreigner and 2 locals. 15 patients have recovered over the past 24 hours, while no new deaths were recorded. In a separate development, Dr. Noor Hisham said no polio cases have been detected in the federal territory of Labuan thus far, based on the acute flaccid paralysis surveillance and random screenings involving 41 healthy children aged 5 and below. The Health Director General said this following the detection of polio virus in the sewage sample collected from the locality. The Health Ministry, through the Labuan Health Department, conducted a polio immunization campaign to prevent infection among the residents. According to a statement on Saturday, Dr. Noor Hisham said the campaign involves the delivery of 2 doses of bivalent oral poliovirus BOPV types 1 and 3 vaccines to all children aged 13 and below in Labuan. In the meantime, the Health Director General said the Sabah Health Department was still conducting polio immunization campaigns statewide, and the number of cases in the state thus far remained at 4. For children in other states, parents need to make sure their children are receiving the polio vaccine at the age of 2, 3, 5 and 18 months. Dr. Noor Hisham also pointed out that polio vaccination injections to prevent infections such as diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, and Haemophilus influenza type B should be given at the age of 2, 3, 5, and 18 months. This is to ensure that every child is optimally protected from polio, while oral polio vaccine is an additional vaccine in order to ensure the spread of the polio virus can be stopped. The Malaysian Communications and Multimedia Commission, MCMC, issued 92 compounds totaling 4.6 million ringgit to 5 telecommunication companies or telcos as of the second quarter of this year. In a statement on Saturday, the MCMC said that the compounds were issued against telcos for several offences under Section 105, Subsection 3 of the Communications and Multimedia Act 1998, related to performance over resolving billing complaints, performance on non-billing complaint resolution, as well as standard performance related to customer hotlines. DG Telecommunications Sdn Bhd received the highest number of compounds at 31, amounting to 1.55 million ringgit, followed by Maxis Broadband Sdn Bhd and Celcom Axiata Berhad, while TT.com Sdn Bhd and Telekom Malaysia Berhad were slapped with 5 compounds amounting to 250,000 ringgit and 4 compounds worth 200,000 ringgit respectively. The number of fines also far exceeded the 26 compounds imposed last year, which amounted to only 960,000 ringgit. The MCMC said the increase in compounds issued reflects its firmness and commitment to ensure better quality of services as well as the sustainability of the communication and multimedia industry for the people in the long term. Still to come on Nightline, baby among 3 killed in Terengganu car crash. Stay with us. Welcome back to Nightline. In Terengganu, 3 in a family, including a 5-month-old baby, were killed after a Honda Jazz they were travelling in crashed on a bridge in Setiu on Saturday. The car was carrying 7 people on board when the accident occurred along Jalan Kota Baru, Kuala Terengganu at 5:30 a.m. According to Setiu District Police Chief Deputy Superintendent Afandi Hussein, the family was on their way to Ajil, Hulu Terengganu from Kota Baru in Kelantan when the car skidded and crashed into the concrete railing of the small bridge near Sungai Tong. One of the victims was flung onto the road, while 3 others were thrown about 6 meters onto the river bank from the impact. 23-year-old Muhammad Amirul Hafiz Muhammad and his 15-year-old brother, Muhammad Amirul Akimi, died on the spot. The man's infant daughter, identified as Nur Raisha Delisha, succumbed to her injuries on the way to the Setiu hospital. 2 other children, aged 3 and 8, were also badly injured, while his wife, who was the driver of the car, 27-year-old Hami Shafika Shazwani Yaakob, and another person sustained light injuries. All the bodies and injured victims were taken to the same hospital. The cause of the crash is being investigated under the Road Transport Act 1987. In Sabah, the body of a man believed to be a victim of a crocodile attack in Kampung Sungai Kalabakan, Tawau, was found by villagers and rescuers at 11 a.m. on Saturday. Authorities said the remains of the 24-year-old victim, identified as Sukrian Jesman Yusof, was discovered in Sungai Luagit, about 3 kilometers from the spot where he was reported missing. The body was found by the rescue team with both arms severed from below the shoulders. The remains were then handed over to police for further action before the search operation was called off at about noon. Over in Pahang, at least 50 secondary school students managed to escape a fire involving a school dormitory in an incident at Batu Talam Rau, Pahang on Saturday morning. The incident, which occurred around 4 a.m., destroyed the 3rd floor of the building located at Sekolah Menengah Agama Al-Falah. All the occupants managed to escape in time and no injuries were reported. The cause of the incident and damages incurred are still under investigation. Heavy rains flood Japan, over a dozen presumed dead. This and more stories when we come back. Onto the foreign front now. Torrential rain in the southwestern Japan prefecture of Kumamoto triggered massive flooding and mudslides on Saturday, leaving 15 people feared dead, with 9 others missing. According to Western Region of Kumamoto Governor Ikuo Kabashima, all the 15 victims were found in cardiorespiratory arrest at the facility for elderly people that was inundated after a nearby river broke its banks. Meanwhile, around 203,200 residents were asked to take shelter in Kumamoto Prefecture and neighboring Kagoshima Prefecture, with 109 shelters opened in 17 municipalities in Kumamoto, housing at least 871 evacuees. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, meanwhile, ordered 10,000 troops to be deployed after rescue services were overwhelmed with calls for help. The government of Spain's Catalonia has ordered an indefinite new lockdown for more than 400,000 people in Segria region, with no one allowed to enter or leave following a surge in coronavirus cases. The confinement takes effect from midday on Saturday and has no end date. Catalonia's Interior Minister, Miquel Buch, said in addition to restrictions on movement, there is also a ban on meetings of more than 10 people, both in private and public spaces. It was reported that the number of people with COVID-19 who have entered the university hospital in Lleida, the capital of Segria, has tripled in the last 10 days. Regional Health Ministry data showed that there were 3,706 cases in the Lleida region on Friday, up from 3,551 the previous day. So far, there have been 62,057 confirmed cases in Catalonia since the outbreak began, with 5,673 related deaths. The move comes as Spain's hospitality sector was hoping to salvage what remains of the all-important summer season. Meanwhile, in Indonesia, the Health Ministry announced 1,447 new confirmed cases on Saturday, bringing the total number of infections nationwide to 62,142. According to the government spokesperson for COVID-19, Ahmad Yuryanto, 53 more people had died of the disease, bringing the death toll to 3,089. The capital city recorded 223 new confirmed cases, bringing the total tally to 12,183, while East Java reported 413 new cases, South Sulawesi 195, Central Java 110, Bali 91 and West Java 88. Over in Singapore, the city-state reported another 185 new cases over the past 24 hours, with 9 cases in the community, bringing the Republic's tally to 44,664 cases. According to his health ministry, the community cases involved 4 Singaporeans or permanent residents and 5 work pass holders, while the rest of the new cases were still migrant workers living in dormitories. In addition, no new clusters were identified on Saturday. In the Middle East, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani on Saturday launched new measures to curb the coronavirus, which include denying state services to those who do not wear masks and shutting down workplaces that fail to comply to the health protocol. Iran has been battling the spread of the coronavirus, with the total number of cases hitting 237,878 on Saturday, and a further 148 deaths, bringing the country's toll to 11,408. Badminton superstar Lin Dunn hangs up his racket. Sports coming up next. On to sports badminton. The world of badminton lost one of their biggest stars to grace the sport with the retirement of five-time world champion and two-time Olympic gold medalist Lin Dan of China. The 36-year-old Lin made the announcement on his Weibo page, saying that injuries and age had finally forced him to step aside. The retirement of Super Dan, as he is known, confirms that he will not compete at the Tokyo Summer Olympics next year. Lin Dan is one of the most successful players ever on the international circuit, where he was unstoppable at the World Championships, winning 5 times from 2006 to 2013. He twice stopped Malaysia's badminton legend, Dato' Lee Chong Wei, in the final at the 2008 Beijing Olympics and the 2012 London Olympics. His glorious national team career also included 6 Thomas Cup triumphs and 5 Asian Games victories from 2006 to 2018. Now let's take a look at the highlights in Malaysia's main newspapers for Sunday, July the 5th. The New Sunday Times highlights Barisan Nasional's victory in the Chini by-election. Malaysia's best-selling Malay newspaper, Harian Metro, underlines the top 10 athletes who are active in social media, while the Badal Haj scam is among the top stories featured in Berita Harian's front page. Do get your copies today or subscribe to the e-paper. A group of archaeologists in Mexico made a new discovery in an underwater cave in Yucatan as they found digging tools, fire pit and navigational markers. They believe it was left by the earliest inhabitants in the Western Hemisphere who were mining for ochre in the cave before it flooded 10,000 years ago. Let's take a look at the visuals as we wrap up Nightline. With that, I'm Raymond Goh. Thank you for tuning in and thank you for your time. Stay safe.